Okay guys, this is chapter 7's flipped video, and we are on the 1780s, so we're after the Revolutionary War, and this is our first government, the Articles of Confederation, our first written constitution. It's going to be in power through most of the 1780s, and then we're going to scrap it and write a new constitution. So we'll be talking about both of these in this video. So 1777, Revolutionary War is happening. It's in full swing, and we want to unite our 13 new states under a type of national government. However, we were fearful that one person in total power with this new government could be detrimental to us, and we had been there, done that. So this new government we created did not have a president. We had a Congress, but we did not have one person that was in complete control. So the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation: Congress could ask the states for money, but they had no way of actually raising taxes. They couldn't regulate foreign or state trade. Laws had to be approved by 9 out of 13 states, which is tough to do. And Congress didn't have the power to actually enforce the laws. But there were some strengths. Under the Articles of Confederation, the Treaty of Paris was signed with the British, which gave us our official independence. The historic Northwest Ordinance was passed. That's spelled wrong, sorry about that, which is going to allow us to create new land in new territories that will eventually become states. And under the Articles of Confederation, there was the power to declare war and make peace, to print money, make treaties, and settle any disputes between the states. So the Northwest Ordinance, we'll talk about that, is going to help us expand. It outlines a plan for applying for statehood to Western territories. 5,000 free males who own 50 acres could start up a government, and if a population of 60,000 people is in place, then they can eventually become a state. And some of the benefits of this new land in the North: no slavery was allowed. It promised education, freedom of religion, trial by jury, and it sets up an orderly process in the West. So this is the Northwest Territory here. Today, this is not considered the West in the United States, but it was in the 1780s. So Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota, these are going to be future states created out of this land. Shays' Rebellion is going to really open Americans' eyes to the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Daniel Shays was a farmer, and a lot of farmers had been put in prison because they couldn't pay their debts. So these farmers marched on the Capitol in Springfield, Massachusetts, and sought to close the courts down. And the army was sent in response. 1,000 of these farmers were arrested, and it just really was the impetus for saying these Articles of Confederation are not working. So we're going to scrap the Articles of Confederation and start up a new constitution, and I'll talk about that next. Okay, so we have some nationalists in this country like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, who are really looking to institute a strong national government. They still want to respect the powers of the people in the states, but they believe that a strong national government is what's best for this nation moving forward. So we're going to institute a government with 3 branches. We'll have our legislative branch, which they had under the Articles, and that's headed by Congress. And they're going to pass federal laws and the budget. They have the power to declare war, not the president. We're going to have the executive branch. They're going to enforce the laws, headed by the president, but not all powerful. So the president is the commander-in-chief, but does not have the power to actually declare war. They can pardon people. They can nominate officials to judge positions. Supreme Court justices are nominated by the president. They can make foreign treaties, propose ideas for laws to Congress. And we also have the judicial branch, which is headed by the Supreme Court. And this is going to set up a judicial system which is going to interpret the laws. And the beauty of this new government, this new constitution, we're going to have checks and balances. So one branch of this new government cannot be more powerful than the other 2. For example, if the president is abusing his power, then the legislative branch has the power to impeach that president and put them on trial to find out if they need to be removed. If there is a law that is unconstitutional, the judicial branch can strike Congress's law down. If the president does not like a bill for a law, he has the power to veto it. And so there's different checks and balances instituted, which is going to make our government more stable and more fair. Basic ideas of the Constitution, it's this separation of powers. If you remember back to the Enlightenment, men like Rousseau and Montesquieu, who are preaching for a more democratic government in their nations. So Montesquieu had the idea of the separation of powers, which we copied that here. The idea of checks and balances we talked about, and we're going to set up a federal system. So states have powers, the national government has powers, and they share these. So here's an example of federalism. You have state powers. Here we have Texas. So these are powers that are true to that state. We have national powers, which our national government can do and states cannot. And then concurrent powers, these are powers that they share. When you guys get jobs someday, you will be taxed not only by the federal government, but also by your state government. So these are examples of federalism, and there's obviously more on this page that I did not mention. Article 1 established our legislative branch, and it's bicameral. We have two houses of Congress. We have our Senate and the House of Representatives, and together they both make up our Congress. The Constitution sets out the term limits. If you're in the House of Reps, you serve for 2 years. Senate, it's 6 years. The way that the states divide up the membership in the House of Representatives is determined by the legislative branch in this article. When we talked about impeachment, it's the House of Representatives that can impeach somebody, and the Senate conducts the trial and votes on it, and also the veto power, which we talked about. Article 2 is the executive branch. The president and the vice president can serve 2 4-year terms. The qualifications are not much to be president. You have to be born in this country, at least 35 years old, and have lived in this country for 14 years. Some of the powers, they are commander-in-chief. They can make appointments, they can pardon somebody, and excuse them from any crime they may have committed, and they deliver the State of the Union address every year. Article 3 set up the judicial branch, which establishes the Supreme Court. Today we have 9 Supreme Court justices. Washington Supreme Court had 6. And the judges serve for life. The idea is they won't be tied to a political party since they don't have to worry about getting reelected. Also, Congress has the power to establish lower courts for this judicial branch. So there are courts set up throughout this nation on local, state, and national levels. Ratifying the Constitution was a tough task at hand. Federalists supported the Constitution, but there was a group of people who believed a Bill of Rights needed to be added to the Constitution, and these men were known as the Anti-Federalists. People like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison will become an Anti-Federalist. They are going to be supportive of a Bill of Rights. And to help get the Constitution passed, the Federalist Papers were written and distributed throughout the nation. John Jay, Alexander Hamilton, Madison, they're going to write 85 essays on the Constitution. So who were the Federalists? These are the property owners, the rich, the merchants, typically in the Northeast or the Mid-Atlantic states. They were elitist. They saw themselves as the head of their class and the most fit to govern the country. And they were typically pro-British. The Anti-Federalists typically supported the French. They were your small farmers, your laborers, typically prevalent in the South. And they supported the common man ideal, more less elitist than the Federalists were deemed. And then here we have comparisons of the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution, just to give you some ideas of how they were similar and how they were different. So this concludes our video on the Constitution. I hope it helps you prepare for the Chapter 7 test.